All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for taking the time to join us. All right. As you see here, mainly we're going to be presenting a project. Let me just introduce you to the team. And I guess if everyone could just like unmute themselves and just say hello so we know who's in the team here. Everyone kind of just pick you out. My name is Freddie. And these are my team members, Emil. Emil, say what up.
Yeah, it's me.
Ben.
Hi, everyone.
And Kevin.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
All right, so we're all recent graduates of Fullstack Academy of Code. And for those of you who aren't familiar, Fullstack Academy is a trusted name in bootcamp education that prepares students for fulfilling careers in tech. We had the pleasure of learning and implementing the nerd stack, among other significant know-hows to become proper software engineers. And as part of our senior phase within our full-time immersive bootcamp cohort, we had to design and create a capstone project in roughly 2 weeks' time. Our team came together and decided to make a blockchain project, GameChain 2048. Just 1 second here. Let me just make sure I get the control here. One moment here. Do I have access to the screen? Okay. Yeah. And just for those of you not familiar with like what the nerd stack is, just want to kind of like point that out to you here. Okay. So 1 second. Sorry, little technical difficulties. I have an old MacBook. So, fair warning. All right. So so like the premise of our project was pretty simple, right? Like we wanted to create an application where users can play puzzle games and be awarded tokens and NFTs on a decentralized platform using all decentralized technology. We wanted to break away from what we learned and dip our toes into the blockchain tech, libraries to really accomplish this task. And of course, we could have easily done it with like the nerd stack knowledge that we had, but instead we wanted to kind of transcend above that and kind of just like, mess around with the different libraries and really just get into like what we can and cannot do within like the blockchain, or like DApp building, area, right? So we're going to try to keep our best to, as the presentation goes along, to keep things in a medium to high level understanding of our application, because I understand there's like people from many different backgrounds here. But just a fair warning, there are going to be code snippets in our presentation. And we're also going to share our deployed version towards the end. So you can kind of, get hands-on and see, what you like about the application, what you don't like about it, because we are very open to feedback. And, and that's just a friendly reminder because, we're not experts in this field. And this project was a learning experience for us. So throughout the presentation, we're going to try to outline the small hiccups we had in our project, but also our thought process and our decisions and constraints we had to be aware of this. And as this was a learning experience, of course, we're more than open to learning how to fix our mistakes, maybe some like train of thoughts that were wrong. So towards the Q&A section, please definitely, make sure that you get off mute and like, like tell us what are the good things you like about our app, what are the things you maybe think that we can do better, or if you have just questions on like why we went a certain direction in our application as opposed to like maybe something you're used to. That's stuff that we definitely want to learn because we're all trying to get into this area of the industry, and it's all something that's very exciting for us. So, without further ado, really, let me just explain let me see here. Oh, sorry about that. I'll let you handle it, Emil.
Okay, no worries. Now,
yeah. What is GameChain 2048? All right. And so
give me a second, please. I'm gonna stop sharing right now.
Oh yeah, you're on the wrong thing. He's just gonna demo here as I explain what the GameChain application is. Do you have the right screen on?
Yeah, but here it is, I guess, right?
Okay, all right. So put it simply, right? So GameChain 2048 is a DApp, a decentralized application. So a user who interacts with the DApp can like visit the site, click on the how-to and learn how to set up the test ether to work on Ropsten. That's how we have it deployed at the moment. Allowing them to play and place on the scoreboard in our current deployed version. Users can visit the account page, change account information such as their username and avatar, see how many of our tokens, NFTs they've won, see their highest score and where they are on the scoreboard, as well as play the game 2048 in either training mode or with their connected wallet. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the game 2048, if you've never downloaded it on your phone or like went to the website and all that, it's a pretty simple game where you just try to get to the highest number by combining like number blocks here, using the up, down, left, right arrows, WASD for some of our gamers if you're interested, right? And the overall goal is get the highest number, get the highest score, win tokens and NFTs all throughout your experience, right? So next here, we're gonna go over the different parts of the application. Pretty much is our tech stack and kind of give you a good idea of the flow of data that's happening on here. So let me hand it off to Emil for that part.
Yeah, thank you. Let me share screen again. I guess from here. Yeah, can you see it? You should be able.
Yes.
Okay, so here we are going to talk about IPFS, as you noticed. And actually, we are going to talk about IPFS to then talk about OrbitDB. This is our database. But let's start talking about IPFS. IPFS stands for the Interplanetary File System. So it doesn't explain much. Yeah. But essentially, it's just a big data storage distributed over the web. And when you add a file to IPFS, your file is split into smaller chunks. I also love the name IPFS. It sounds cool. Yeah, the chunks there are cryptographically hashed and given a unique fingerprint called a content identifier, CID of your file. And this CID acts as a permanent record of your file as it exists at the point of time. And also when the other nodes download your file from the IPFS, later they become another provider of this file until their cache is cleared. This is how IPFS works. This is a crux of the application. And in our app, we use IPFS to store some massive data like user images or description. Yeah, we have our NFTs and we store description for them on IPFS. Also, I guess now we know something about IPFS, the basics, and we can talk about OrbitDB. What is OrbitDB? OrbitDB is also a serverless and distributed peer-to-peer database. OrbitDB uses IPFS as its data storage, and IPFS pops up to automatically sync databases with peers. So OrbitDB essentially allows you to make some queries on the IPFS. And it's eventually a consistent database that uses conflict-free replicated data types. For conflict-free database merged, making OrbitDB, which makes OrbitDB an excellent choice for decentralized apps, which we are, and blockchain applications, and offline first web applications. Yeah, this is our, let's say, like a front-end database. So actually you can load some data from the other front-end from other browser. And here's the technology which allows you to do so. It's called IPFS PubSub. PubSub stands for publish subscribe for short, and is a pattern. This is a pattern often used to handle events in a large-scale network. Publishers send messages classified by topic or content, and subscribers receive only the messages they are interested in, and all without direct connections between publishers and subscribers. This approach offers much greater network scalability and flexibility. Yeah, let's talk about some examples where PubSub can be used. So some applications include collaborative document editing like Google Docs, but not Google Docs. I mean, distributed Google Docs and dynamic website content, some applications with chat, multiplayer games, continuously evolving datasets, and web service workers passing around messages. We, in our application, have our scoreboard. And this is where we use the OrbitDB, really rely on our database here and on IPFS PubSub as well. It gives us ways to make IPFS PubSub gives us a way to make IPFS fast for large-scale networks, such as data centers, local area networks, and large P2P applications. So let's take a look about our IPFS options for our IPFS node. So to be able to run IPFS in our application, we have to run our node. Yeah, and we can make some options for it. Yeah, we could do it. We could run the node within the application with local IPFS daemon or with remote node, such as Infura's node. So we use here Infura's gateway. And also we use WebRTC here to, let's say, just to make things faster. WebRTC is a technology that and it allows you to exchange arbitrary data between browsers without requiring an intermediary. And also we use our PubSub here as we enable it. And this is something for us just to not overload the network. This is essentially our options for our IPFS node. Yeah, I guess let's go then to the next slide. This is, yeah, along the way, we had to choose between two of these. What is this? This, this is OrbitDB and GunDB. GunDB Gun database DB is also a decentralized database that thinks data from closest peers. And it has its own protocol to do so. But we already knew more about IPFS. So this is the main reason why we choose OrbitDB instead of Gun. No. OrbitDB, what I know right now, OrbitDB does not allow you to do SQL queries. OrbitDB has its own models within it. So like you can make some JSON within the OrbitDB and share it across the peers with the peers, but you can't do SQL queries. What you can do, actually, you can make some SQL database on the IPFS, put it on the IPFS somewhere, and you can make queries to this SQL database on the IPFS, but it's not about OrbitDB. Yeah, that is answer your question. I don't know how to pronounce your name, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sounds good, man.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit now about Infura. When an IPFS node is running as daemon, it exposes an HTTP API that allows you to control the node and run the same commands you can from the command line. But we also can use someone else's IPFS node. This is what Infura does for us. It's running a remote IPFS node. To be perfectly honest, I personally saw a lot of tutorials which were using Infura's gateway, so we decided to do so as well. We also tried to use Infura's IPFS API, but it doesn't work with OrbitDB, unfortunately. OrbitDB requires in IPFS mutable file system, which Infura IPFS API does not support. I see a big question in the chat. Let me just read it. I'm a little confused on how OrbitDB is a database, but it's built on top of IPFS. It's really just an abstraction on top GS IPFS, I guess it is. No? Or is it storing data somewhere differently? No. It's just, I would say that this is something on your front that is stored in your browser's cache. I don't know much about it. I'm sorry about that. But essentially, this is something within your front end. Yeah, no problems. What's going on in our application? Just walk through. So this is our application. You can see my cursor, I guess. And we connect somehow to IPFS network. But first, I would say we connect to IPFS network or OrbitDB, and we use Infura's node. We can use it directly or with OrbitDB. Why we use directly IPFS? Because we don't use OrbitDB to upload the data, such as images, to IPFS network. We upload images directly to IPFS network. We don't use OrbitDB. On OrbitDB, we store only the user's data. And within the user's data, we store only the link for the image from the IPFS. So we use OrbitDB and IPFS directly. Yeah, this is it about what's going on here. And at some point, we realized that we want to be completely serverless. We don't have a SQL database, as you know already. And our logic for backend is a smart contract. So the main question is, where should we deploy our front end? Yeah, and since IPFS is just a file system, we can use it as our server, right? Right. From IPFS, we actually can fetch index.html and run JavaScript within it. But to do so, we had to discover a lot about IPFS mutable file system. This is another abstraction. And about IPFS core API, it's a lot. I would say it's really much. It is tremendous work. So we decided to use a ready-made solution. This is Flick. Flick just does the whole job for us. We just put the GitHub repo there. And at the exit, we got a ready-made website. Yeah, this is everything from my part. And now I just want to I just want to give a word for Ben. He will walk you through our smart contracts. Thank you.
Thank you, Emil. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So thank you, Emil. My teammate just mentioned that our smart contract. So what is our smart contract? And we use ERC20 contract from the Open with Zeppelin library. So what is the ERC20 and what is the Open Zeppelin? And ERC20 is basically just standard use for creating the issuing smart contract on the Ethereum blockchain. And the smart contract and then can be used to create a smart property or tokenized assets that people can invest in. So Open Zeppelin is also an open source framework to build a secure smart contract. It meant to provide secure and tested and audit code to enable the new generation of distributed application, protocol, and organization. So that's why this is we go through a large documentation. So we understand we can basically it's Open Zeppelin. The contract provide us the standard, and we just use it. And then in our smart contract, we import the Open Zeppelin, and we can just build on create our smart contract extension, and then build from that on we can build on the we can add on our function on the in the smart contract. So so here's the example our smart contract code. We just create our name for our smart contract, and we just add our function here. And I just want to talk about what's the good thing for the ERC the contract. And it's this in terms of transaction, it's really it takes a minute to finish, and it's really effective, and it's globalized, and it's effective, and you can access anywhere in the world, and it's trackable, and every transaction is recorded, and it can be reviewed by every user, and in terms of interaction, and you can reduce the complexity of the token interaction, and safe in terms of safety, and then the smart contract are equipped, and also the cryptography keeps all the documents safe from the infiltration, and also its accuracy, and using this smart contract result, it will be elimination of the error that occurred due to the manual filing of many forms. So so that's why we implemented this contract from the Open with Dublin, and of course it's still a contract. We always have to write the test for our smart contract because writing the text is really basically is really necessary, and before deploying to even deploying to the live testing, and basically the testing will brings many benefit to the development process. So here's some benefit I listed, and test validate the behavior with your smart contract. They give you the confidence that your code performs in a way that you intend, and does not perform in the way that it should not. And also when you're developing, and the test provides assurance, and that newly added code does not have an intended side effect. So as you add a new logic, and the passing test suite helps you to confirm that you have not broken any previous of functionality. And also it's a good test suite simplifies the refactoring. And as you make change and your tests begin to fail, and you provide clearly indicator of the which area still must be addressed. So also the test save time in debugging, and you know that if we have a good test, we know this they will save our time when an unexpected area appear. Your test will suite basically allow you to immediately rule out any potential cause, and you can often adapt the test to help you to reproduce the bug, and then helping you in fixing the issue, so you can resume the development more quickly. So basically, test is basically is very it's important part, and before you are deploying your application, and the next one, this one, and so after we testing, after we testing our smart contract, let's assuming everything's okay, and then the next step is just we need to talk about we had to deploy our smart contract to the Webster test network for live testing, and that's what we use Webster test network, and what exactly the Webster test network, and why are we using it for our smart contract? So basically, the Webster test network is the Ethereum test network that allows the blockchain development to test their network in a live testing. And And basically, the Webster testing in a live setting is a little bit different than the testing on the local network with Ganache. We know there's we're not sure how it's going to behave, and deploying to a live testing network is really also a good thing, and also deploying to the Webster test network is also you don't need to pay any real either in order to interact with the smart contract on the blockchain, because we know that deploying to the main network, they require to pay the real either. It will cost us it will cost this project basically money to do it. So we don't want to do it. And also since the Webster test network is available for all of us, so we can just basically use it. And also deploying this, we need to use a Metamask. Metamask is basically it will turn your browser to the blockchain browser, and allow you to connect to the blockchain, and basically also allow you to create a new account to connect the Webster test network. And we also need that to request a free Ether, so we can have a Ether to pay the gas fee to deploy our contract. So as you can see, the Webster.ethscan.io is the website that allow you to reveal the information about the block and address and the transaction on the Ethereum Webster test network blockchain. And so basically, you can, after you deploy your contract, you can just go there and then you can search by the name of your contract or by the contract's address, and you can see your deployment over there. And if you have a transaction, and you also show your transaction over there. And it's really helpful for us to test our smart contract, and before we deploy into the real main network. So just like the next step.
Ben, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
There in the last page, you said that the developing in a real network is really different than developing in a local network with Ganache. What is the main difference you find there?
The main difference, the main difference, like you basically you test your local network on the Ganache, but you still, even you know the function, your smart contract is working, but you don't know the transaction exactly recording on the main frame, the testing level, which basically you know how it reacts in the local network, but you don't know how exactly it reacts on the testing on the real live testing network. And if you can, sometimes it cannot record the right, it cannot get the right address. It can be result in a error. So that's the one thing we had.
Thank you.
And for those who don't know, for those who are not familiar with the Metamask, and we recommend you to our website and click on the how to click button, and it will give you the instruction to how to download the MetaMask, and also create an account in the MetaMask to connect the Webster test network to get the free Ether to play our game, because when you get reward token, you do need to pay a little bit of gas fee. So it will, once you create a transaction, and you do need that. And okay, so good. And yep, once that's the next step is how to deploy our smart contract. And we have a contract, and we do need to set up some kind of setup in our Truffle config file. There's we have learned that there's many ways. There's some other way to deploy the smart contract, but this in the snippet on this slides, we're using HT wallet provider, and we basically is from the Truffle, and we also use the Infuria. Basically, we use these two things to make a connection for us, and basically the HT wallet provider will enable the Web3, and we use it to basically just to sign the transaction for the address. During this time, you basically just divide. You have a 12 to 24 word mnemonic, and you just basically save in the secret file, and we just use the we just need to wait it. That's the secret password, and also HT wallet provider is really convenient and easy to configure network connection to the Ethereum test network through the Infura.io. And also we need to set up a project key in the Infura to connect the list of the Infura support network to communicate with the Ethereum blockchain. And in this setup, also there's one thing that if you I want to point out here, and in the third argument in the provider of the function HT wallet provider, on the third argument you can pass the third argument for choosing your account. And sometimes if you don't pass anything, it will just set the default as a 0 index account for that. So that's the sometimes you just want a different to deploy by using a different account. So okay, and that will be it for me. I finished the sharing here, and then let me pass back to Freddie to continue sharing.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben. So far, as you see in our application, our project here overall, we have kind of just honed in on the different, decentralized technologies and libraries that we've used. And essentially just a little quick walkthrough on, why we use them, how they work, little snippets and thought processes of what they've done, and even just like the logic behind our smart contract. And yeah, even though for like the secret variables, nothing is accessible unless you have the mnemonic file. So don't worry, y'all. We do just, and even overall, everything is testing network right now. So we're not too worried about that if y'all want to, go in and mess with that part. So let me just talk on the front end part here, right? Because, we have all this running. We have a smart contract that's deployed. We have, IPFS, as working as a backend, that database and the like. So let's talk a little bit about like the front end, And so when we're thinking about the front end of the application, we're also just thinking about like the user experience, but also the developer experience. And one of the great things about like the Truffle development environment is really just like the ease of migration of our smart contracts, as opposed to something like, hard hat, where you got to be a little bit more decisive in your code. So it is very newbie friendly. So I highly recommend it. They have a lot of great tools. And one of those great tools is Drizzle, right? And so what is Drizzle? So in a short and sweet description, right? Drizzle is a Redux store that handles synchronizing state with the front end user interaction. For those of you not familiar with Redux, just think of data on an application that you may interact with, like your account information. So like a Redux store allows us to like keep the state of data available across the different React components to make developing the user interface easier. So just think of like, as you're working through an application or you're doing anything through an application, how is it that the state how is it that the application knows what you're doing? Well, most likely a set of either a global, quote unquote, like state, which is just data that changes, or a local, state, which is data, of course, that changes. And so I'm going to get a little bit more into the jargon of like, the development process here. So I will try to make my comparisons as much as I can. And of course, if you have questions, feel free to throw them in. I'll try to address them as I can. If not, like towards the end is always good as well, right? And so to be a little bit more specific with the Drizzle library, right? It's definitely a library that we can use based on the Redux store, right? That developers can use to handle like Web3 interactions for our smart contracts, right? It'll allow for a fully reactive contract state that updates based on events and transactions, as well as allows you to minimize re-rendering by being declarative on what causes renders in your application. Especially, it's just a much easier access for us to just focus on the different features and not have to worry so much about like the logic of like when to load Web3 using the Web3 library and the like. So if it's built there and it's easier to use, why not just go ahead and use it, right? And so one great thing about Drizzle, and the main reason that we were using it, right, is just that it handles a connection to Metamask using Web3, allowing us to just more or less focus on the outcomes of the interactions with the contract and how we want them to load throughout the application. So if you check out the link that Emil threw there, right, like at any point, you'll kind of see that like we also have Drizzle just handling the connections on the places where we want Drizzle to handle connection. And what do I mean by that? Since we're building an application that we want it to be user-friendly for those within the blockchain, like field and without, we want to make sure that, hey, if you don't have something like MetaMask or any other kind of wallet there that you can connect to, well, no worries. One, click on the how-to, we'll tell you how to get set up, right? But also, it won't lock you out from the application fully. Right. And it allows us to really just have that declarative control over where we want to like initialize the state and the instances of Drizzle. Right. So my bad here. Okay, so that's what happened. Sorry, I got control of the screen and now I can't command tab. 1 second here.
Okay, no worries. I can.
No, yeah.
Let me do this.
You got it. Yeah. Okay. And so right. So Drizzle overall sounds cool, right? Developers dream, right? Like let's just make things easier, right? So how did we use Drizzle in our application? Right. So for those of you who have Redux experience, so it's very similar to a Redux store where we simply use the tools within the Drizzle library, specifically in this case, the React plugins to create the Drizzle store, then wrap the top level component within the context of the store. And then of course, we can call the store state and instance throughout the components of the applications where it's needed here. So kind of just have a little quick snippet of information. We mainly just have 2 contracts there, right? Created the store and just wrapped it within like the React context. For those of you more into like developer standpoint of all this, we are using, I believe that was React 17. Yeah, so we kind of just jumped all the way to the end. Drizzle includes React Native 2. I mean, I guess you could, right? I've never used the React Native library, but it is just a React components. So I'm sure you can work it in there somehow. If not, you could just use like a regular context provider. So I'm sure you can use at least part of the tools to at least initialize it, right? Because from my understanding of React Native, that's just like a way to build like the applications on like smartphones and the like, right? To make it easier with like the different, screen sizes. So we would wrap the Drizzle context for the store and then just call it where it's needed, right? And the where needed part is very important here because we can declare where we want Drizzle to initialize and check for connection, right, of the wallet. And this is where we get to that specific part of like, hey, you want to play the game? Okay, well, we got to check to make sure you have a wallet, because if not, why run everything and interact with the smart contract and, get your score up and running and not have it work, right? Unless you have a wallet. And here, so essentially, if you see here on the top part of this, we have just an instance that you can use in functional components. We've used Drizzle React hooks from the React plugin library part of Drizzle. And so these are just calls that you can make into with the Drizzle library to get it working within your component, right? So for those of you who've used like class components in the past and all that, I highly recommend moving to React hooks. Definitely much easier in terms of like the simplicity of certain code, but it'll work better with this library as opposed to like a whole context provider and then running a lot more loading components. The loading components are still important. So let me get into like that part, right? Because of the nature of our application and just the nature of asynchronicity across certain codes that we have on the application, like OrbitDB, and IPFS, we had issues and conflicts where we were getting inconsistent errors across our application. And the reason for that was because we were trying to make an asynchronous call to using hooks to kind of like load the accounts and the information, but we also needed like, for example, like the wallet address to then run that as a call to OrbitDB to then pull out the rest of the information that we have saved up there, because we save it per wallet address.
Hola, really. Javier, ¿cómo estás? Bueno, qué alegría que Madrid está divina y que ahora te estás yendo a Málaga. Me alegra que estés.
Okay. Just muted that, no worries. So any questions you have, feel free to just drop them into chat. So overall, right. So in order to like fight against these race conditions, one, definitely read the documents, because I think Drizzle has some okay documents out there that'll kind of just help you bypass this risk. But another thing is just like loading components, right? So one thing that we had to do was just like, call and check if Drizzle is initialized, to then load the child component, which we then wanted to make that other asynchronous call, kind of like just, getting rid of those race conditions and then allowing us to fully, call like the account information and have everything, up and loaded. And you'll kind of see that throughout like our application as you go through like maybe the account page, you'll see how the account page loads. It'll go through like 2 different loading word subsets. And like, you'll see like, okay, it's because it's just making a call to Orbit. It's just making sure you're connected to with your wallet all in one shot. Was there another slide, Emil? Right. So beyond that, that's Drizzle. That's pretty much Drizzle in a nutshell. Made it easier for us, so that's why we used it as a developer tool. And of course, that was just like one of the little hiccups that we've had there. The rest of our parts was really built with React and MaterialUI. Okay. All right. Can you guys still hear me?
Yep, we sure can.
Okay, sorry about that. Just seemed like a bunch of mics come on me. So the rest of our application on the front end here is just built using React, and for styles we just used MaterialUI. And one of the biggest reasons we chose this specific style library, I know there's a bunch of developers out there who have different, choices. They have their own, love for certain style components and the like. Some of us were already working on MaterialUI, and we kind of wanted to expand upon it. For those of you who are not familiar with MaterialUI, MaterialUI is just it's just like a React front-end style library, right? And it's based on Google's material design. And so it has some pretty cool looking components that you can easily style locally and globally. And their docs are pretty awesome too. So as like a starter, if you're just looking to get like some pretty cool looking components and you just want to like, worry about like the smart contracts and all the like, of course, we opt for MaterialUI. But of course, there's so many other ones out there that you can do a lot of the same things with. So, just feel free to like venture out that. But if you're interested on what we use specifically, it was, more or less MaterialUI. And so another part here too is if you look at our application, you'll see like some tokens going around. The token is dedicated to our instructor at Fullstack, Ben Rodriguez. He was pretty awesome in pushing us in the right direction in this application. So you'll see that a token made in 3JS, forever memorizing him inside the application. So yeah, so check that out too. It might lag you a little, so sorry about that. But we're always looking to make things a little bit more quicker in our application and more user-friendly for a far better user experience. And so with that, let's go into, like the game logic and NFTs and the like, and Kevin will take over from here.
Thank you very much, Freddie. I appreciate it. So I am going to talk a little bit more about the game logic in relations to our Solidity contracts in which we reward both tokens and the NFTs to players who play the game. So what is the logic? Well, in this case, the logic is ultimately how we want the application to reward players based on a set of parameters, right? So the user flow of the game would be for players to actually start the game, of course, then play the game, and then their final scores will determine how they are rewarded, if they are rewarded. The way it works is the data is stored into the local state. So there's two types of scores that will be presented in the game. It'll be your tile score. So as you play the game and you shift the tiles and you merge them like a 2 and 2 into a 4, or a 4, 4 into an 8, going all the way up to 2048. That final score, what happens is that we actually look at the state within that score on the tile, and then we take that into consideration. So whatever tile score, whatever the highest tile is on that board, we'll take it. So for instance, if you had a 512, we'll take that and we'll pull it out, as well as we'll also look at the total score. So when two tiles merges, or when two tiles will merge together, or you shift them around, your total score increments based off of the actions that you do in that game. So what that means is for each score in Tilestone Milestone, your percentage in rewarding a token would increase. So if you have at least a 512 score tile, you have at least a 3% chance of being rewarded an NFT. So initially we had conversations about how exactly we wanted to reward our tokens and our NFTs. What we wanted to do initially is we wanted to have users an opportunity to have up to an 18% chance of being rewarded a token every time they play a game. What that means is that the higher your score is in terms of your total, as well as your milestone or your tile milestones, your percentage increases. So if you get to 512, which is the first score milestone, you'll have a 3% chance, and it increments all the way up to 18%. What happens then is that we take that final percentage and we put it into a small probability function. And if that valuates as true, we will then use the set reward function for either the NFT or the token itself within the Solidity contract, and then you get rewarded an actual token or an NFT. What we had decided is, after playing the game multiple times, we realized that at least for the token function, 18% was probably going to be way too low. And you're going to have to play the game, and not only play the game multiple times, but play the game very well in order to at least be awarded a token. So what we did is we made some alterations in terms of our probability. And what we did is, essentially, if you are able to get 2048 plus a 20,000 total score, you'll be guaranteed 100% you'll be guaranteed a token, basically. Now, if you get over to 20,000, if you get to a score of 20,000 at least 20,000 and above, you'll have the opportunity to actually be awarded multiple tokens. So we decided, we wanted folks to at least have the opportunity to be rewarded the tokens. In terms of the NFTs, originally we had it at a fraction of a percent, so 0.1% in terms of being able to be rewarded one. And in order to get to that percentage, or even being able to be awarded an NFT, you do have to complete the game, which is 2048, and also achieve a score of 20,000. We realized after some discussions, we decided to then increase that total probability to 0.05%, so 0.5%, basically. So with a little bit of consistency in terms of playing and being well at the game and doing well at the game, you'll be able to have a chance of being rewarded an NFT. If we go into the next slide, we'll have like a breakdown of what the percentages is, so it's more clear. So here are your milestones, basically. So if your total scores is 20, 40K, 60K, 80K, 100K, here's your odds of being rewarded an NFT. And then your token odds is here's your tile score and here's your total score. So with each milestone that you reach, your overall probability is then increased to a point where you can basically be guaranteed an actual token if you are able to complete the game. So one of the things along with this is, it kind of ties into token economics, or tokenomics is what they would say. If you go into the next slide. And what is tokenomics, right? It's basically made of a combination of two words, token and the economics, right? And it's basically the study of economics of a crypto token, from its qualities to its distribution and production and more. So creators themselves, they need to determine upfront what is our circulating supply going to be, and how we're going to allow users to obtain, these tokens or these NFTs. Specifically talking about the token economics of NFTs, we wanted to originally offer 5 unique NFTs to users, right? And we also wanted to actually make them, NFTs, right? Non-fungible tokens that are very unique. So once someone is rewarded an NFT, no one else would be able to attain it. However, how we currently have it coded is that folks are able to be rewarded the NFT more than once. So we have 5 unique ones. Well, we have 5 NFTs located in our database, but multiple users are able to obtain those. Right. And the basis of this is that we wanted, speaking in regards to the NFTs and how they're being rewarded, we wanted to make sure that they were difficult to obtain, and kind of like, the best players are able to obtain them, right? And also being consistent with being able to play. So, you play a decent amount of games, you get to 2048, you get to a tile score of 20,000, and, you have the opportunity maybe to be able to be awarded an NFT. And best part about it is that, if we can go into the actual application themselves, we can, show you exactly what the NFTs are. Emil, if you could switch to the application really quick, we'll show you our 5 NFTs.
Yeah, 1 second, please. Sorry.
Yep. Yeah, so here's the page of the collectibles that you have, right? We have 5 trees, basically, and a description of them all. We also do have pictures, I believe, specifically, so specific artwork dedicated to them as well.
It takes time to load them.
Yeah, but right. Like Emil said, it takes a little bit of time for them to load. So these are one of the 5, if you're able to play in a little bit of consistency, you're able to obtain one of the 5 very cool NFTs that we have basically located or stored into the contract themselves. So, you have some time, go ahead and you play, get to 2048 with a total score. And if you're consistent enough, I'm sure you'll be rewarded one of these, and you can keep them basically. And we'll have, in your account section of the application, you're able to kind of view what you currently have owned. Which is, a really cool thing. I know everyone is, is a huge craze and a stir about NFTs these days. So to be able to, kind of, work through a process of playing, a certain game, or, if you really do enjoy 2048 and playing it and having a chance of being rewarded in NFT, it's kind of a cool experience. So I'm going to go more into just the basis of the background of the actual contracts in terms of the NFT specifically, and what we generally use. So we decided to code our contract using ERC 1155 as opposed to the standard, or at least the initial standard, which was the 721. So the ERC, sorry, Emil, if you could go back to the slides. So ERC was created by Engine. So it's really the only token that enables you to create every type of asset, from currency and real estate to digital art and gaming items. And it's really becoming the standard in creating gaming rewards and certain items with them. And the ERC 1155, you can create multiple fungible and non-fungible tokens within a single contract. And it's, it's very, very useful. It's really, really becoming a standard in terms of like creating gaming awards, in terms of like being able to award folks like skins or certain types of like, any different types of awards when you're playing video games. And, having the option to actually create a fungible token that's, that isn't like, you can do either something that is unique. So you can just have like one skin that, no one is able to get. Or what you can also do is kind of create a token which multiple people can, like if you think of like, I don't know, you think of like Fortnite, and there's like, there's a library of skins that folks can use in order to kind of, create their characters. So like being able to have like a token that multiple people can kind of obtain, I guess in this case, the way we have it set up is, our 5 trees are able to award it, under multiple conditions. And there's some advantages to taking the ERC 1155 as opposed to the ERC 721. And the biggest thing is, I know, 721 is something that, is typically the standard in terms of like what you see in NFTs from like OpenSeas. The problem is that, when you do mint those, and minting is essentially just kind of declaring the transaction as public on the ledger. It's very expensive in terms of gas fees. So you have to pay a lot of Ethereum, especially if you look at like crowdsourcing events, or you're looking at sales, like on OpenSeas, and everyone is trying to obtain, a specific collection of NFTs, and they're all trying to mint it at once. It's very, 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 it gets very, very expensive during that time frame. So ERC 1155 gas costs are cut by almost like, it's all the way up to like 90% basically. So it's a lot cheaper to mint your things. And, that's generally what you would want, especially if you're trying to create like a video game and you're trying to, kind of reward. Yeah, it is. It's a lot more expensive. And, like in terms of video games, if you're trying to reward just players, and if there's a lot of folks playing your game at once, if it's a team game and multiple people are being rewarded, you kind of don't want folks to have to spend a lot of Ethereum just to be able to mint the things that they're rewarded, especially if it's a free game, right? Or it's especially if you've worked to kind of obtain this item, which was supposed to be either cheap or relatively free. And, Ethereum, if the gas fees are incredibly expensive, it's kind of, it's discouraging to folks, right? So, that's kind of the basis. And like within the ERC 1155, it's very similar to the ERC 20 contract, in which we have a set reward function that's coded into it. And in the same way as those two functions in the ERC 20 and in the ERC 1155, like I said, if your total percentage or your probability is evaluated to true in the probability function, those rewards would essentially trigger off. Those functions would essentially basically trigger, and you'll be a rewarded one. And what happens is that if you do win, your MetaMask wallet pops up the extension, and then you confirm the gas fees, which should be relatively cheap for both. And then you're rewarded a token or an NFT with consistency. And then you're able to view what you have, in the application, how many tokens you've been rewarded, or how many tokens you currently have, or any NFTs that you have. And then you can look, you can actually click into the NFT and look at what you have. You can see the artwork specifically, and all of the metadata with it. So that's basically, our premise behind the ERC 1155 and the probabilities and the game logic behind it. So I'm going to go a little bit more into just what's next for us in terms of this project, in terms of the team. So, we are super interested in expanding our project and building out features to make it just a more viable product, make it more expansive, of course. And we had a few big picture goals that we had outlined during the beginning stages of this project. You know, we've only had 2 weeks to be able to sit here and learn the entire tech stack, which was a lot different from our traditional nerd stack that we had used at Fullstack. So, you know, it took, you know, we had to take days to really like, you know, go through tutorials, watch videos, and then actually implement everything into one. And, you know, we kind of divided everything by a list of tiers. So our MVP, so our minimal viable product, which is basically making sure that the application was working. So we had that. Then we had tier 2, which we wanted to expand upon that MVP. And then we had tier 3, which is kind of like bigger goals, bigger expansions, things that we knew we probably weren't going to get to within the 2-week span, but we had already decided that we wanted to kind of work further and work past, obviously, the boot camp into improving this. So, you know, the immediate things from tier 3 is obviously, you know, Freddie said, you know, we're always working on trying to improve our styling with MaterialUI, obviously. We know how important it is to make everything look as, you know, aesthetically pleasing as possible. So, you know, continuing to learn that, I think it's really a responsibility for us all, as well as, you know, if anyone has tips on how to improve, because I know you do, you know, I know some people have a really great eye in terms of just styling things from a front end experience and making it look really, really nice. So just working on that. And if anyone has some tips on that, of course, you know, feel free to reach out to us and let us know. One of the biggest things that we had in terms of one of the biggest goals is really being able to use our tokens and being able to buy and sell them for Ethereum. Originally, we had that as our MVP, our tier 1, but you know, Ben, our instructor, had kind of like instructed us and told us that, you know, it would be a big undertaking to be able to do in 2 weeks. So make sure that you actually have a working application, and then that's something that you can work in tier 3 or post boot camp graduation. So that's really something that, you know, we all kind of need to hone in and learn more about to be able to make, to deploy our application, you know, outside of the testing network and actually making it as, you know, we can create an exchange kind of situation where we can take our tokens and buy Ethereum and vice versa. 2048 obviously was the main focus in terms of the application. You know, we all really enjoy the game. We've played it a lot actually on the application itself. And we knew that a lot of folks would enjoy the actual application, it's, you know, as well, or enjoy the game itself. You know, we wanted to really pick up, you know, a game that everyone can quickly pick up and actually enjoy themselves. Thanks, Layla. We really appreciate it. It was a lot of trial and effort. But we also know that, you know, if we're able to get the application to a point where, you know, there's a lot of eyes and there's a lot of recommendations in terms of how do we expand, we know that we would want to kind of create a collection of games, right? Not just 2048, but, you know, other fun games that people like to play, whether, you know, they're classic games that everyone likes to play, or maybe we decide to kind of, you know, have discussions on maybe creating, you know, our own small puzzle games, et cetera, et cetera. So we know that that is definitely something that we want to talk about in the future, and, you know, see if we can expand to other games outside of 2048, even though that is our baby. And that's, you know, what we had, you know, this is what we had originally set our eyes on, and that was going to be the main focus. So, you know, those are more discussions in terms of what, you know, what are the games we want to play, or what are the games we want to add to the application, as well as kind of like adding a difficulty kind of spectrum in terms of like first 2048. So I guess the heart of the game is, you know, throwing little loops and little, you know, and I know like other games would be a lot easier to like change difficulty levels, like chess, for instance, like, or some other game that's harder to play, and kind of for like the high rollers. So if you want to play like a really, you know, if you want to play at a really high difficulty, your chances of either getting a token increases or like getting multiple tokens increases at once. So we wanted to kind of introduce that kind of difficulty tier system at some point. And then we also wanted to kind of create more of a community feel around the entire application. You know, a lot of, you know, I've been in crypto for a while, like just investing and doing the things and making the mistakes that everyone has made in this space the last couple of years. And I know that like the decentralized space, a lot of times, like, you know, that when you think of decentralized, you think of like disconnection from centralization. At the same time, there's also like this feeling like you're like just like in this bubble by yourself, and then everyone else has their own bubble, and everything is like kind of spaced out and separated from each other. So, we talked about kind of expanding on bringing the community together within this application. So introducing like forums and chat rooms and kind of like having people, talk to, being people able to communicate with each other within the application, right? Or even like if we have, more multiplayer games, have the chat room and, encourage like light and very polite and appropriate trash talk. Some people like to do that. Or forum, forum, how standard forums are, and being able to talk about certain things and topics and, kind of bonding together in this community. So just being able to like talk more about that and expanding more about that, definitely something that we want to, talk about more and seeing what we can implement into the application. Those are like some of our direct goals right now, like some of the things that we have already talked about and plan to like work on. But, obviously we're committed to working on this project post boot camp graduation. So we'll definitely kind of talk more about what else we need to add. And then of course, if there's any suggestions, if there's any like feedback or anything that you guys may have in terms of what we can do to improve, we are 100% open and welcome to it all. We appreciate all the feedback, and we're very new in this space. Like we are still trying to learn. We're still trying to figure out things. And even if we are like 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line, like I feel like you will always, never stop learning about this space, right? There's always new things. There's always going to be new tech stacks and libraries, et cetera. So definitely feel free to, if obviously I know there's a lot of folks that know a lot more than we do. So if there's any additional information or anything that you can, throw out there, obviously, please feel free to reach out to us. Here's a little bit of a meet us, so a small background. I'm sorry, like the things are a little bit small, but, we'll also share this presentation with you guys as well. Here's also our LinkedIns. What I will also do is I also have our LinkedIn's readily available that I will drop into the chat as well for you guys. So please feel free, sorry, that like doubled up, but please feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. Definitely chat with us, have conversations. Obviously you can pick our brains. We would love to pick your brains as well in terms of this. And we would just love to connect with you guys, of course. It's really been a pleasure working with my team and just working on this project. We definitely learned a lot and some trials and errors. Definitely like something that kind of, I guess the entire boot camp itself pushed us out of our comfort zone, but like this tech stack really, really, really did, because it was kind of like we spent 2 months learning about completely different libraries. And then here we are kind of learning something that we've never learned in 2 weeks and trying to implement it all in one. So it was definitely challenging, but also very rewarding at the same time. So what I will do is I will open the floor up to questions. So if there's any questions that you guys have, anything that we might be able to answer right now, we can. If not, we can definitely like research more and get back to you guys. So yeah, if there's any questions about the presentation, about any of the libraries, about us personally, and we're all very interested in the space, is probably where we're going to kind of plant kind of our futures in. So we're going to continue trying to learn. It's a really, 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 really interesting technology, and it's clearly revolutionary and obviously something that's going to be the forefront of our future and the way that we live our lives moving forward. So, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much. Yeah, y'all, if y'all have any questions, comments, anything you like, anything you want to see changed, feel free to hit us up. We got the chat open. You can unmute yourself, whatever you want.
Yeah, I have a question. How much time have you spent doing this project between the four of you?
2 weeks.
Roughly about 2 weeks. But still a little bit even like smaller than that, to be honest, because we really just did it like Monday through Friday, and then we only did like smaller updates like off of that. So, but roughly overall, like just about 2 weeks. And that was immediately after just like finalizing our last project within our bootcamp. So 2 weeks to learn the tech stack and to apply it.
Nice, nice. So you didn't have this problem like the ones, for example, myself, I have this problem of I learned through a bootcamp, so to speak. It's kind of an online bootcamp, but it's a video bootcamp, you know. And then the tools that they are showing there are already updated, or the language has evolved, has done some iterations over the version and such. So yeah, I kind of feel this field is really changing super fast.
Yeah.
You didn't have this kind of feeling, right? I mean, 2 weeks for learning the technology and building this stuff.
We definitely did. It's funny you say that, because that was actually one of the biggest issues that we had. So among the four of us, when we decided to first take on this project and we talked about like the tech stack we wanted to do, we all broke out into different parts about it and we just wrote our own documents. And that's directly to combat kind of like that issue that you were just saying in there, where like you might run into like videos that are running you through like, you know, Solidity and all the like, but then you realize, oh, that's like Solidity, you know, 3, like 0.3 or 0.4, right? And so then when we changed it, when we went into like Solidity 0.8, we were just like, well, this isn't working the same way. So we had to go into the documents. And so we just wrote that. So like each one of us was keeping each other up with the information that we were learning, just so we don't run into like those, you know, incompatible like issues. And even that, just to like update each one of us to make sure that we understood the difference of like of the major breaking changes that, you know, would happen, you know, in Drizzle. Like, for example, there was a change in like how you use Drizzle context in like, you know, React 16.3 versus, you know, 16.8. And we decided to opt out for React 17. So we had to change our ideas of like learning class components to React hooks. So, but yeah, that's definitely a problem, is that everything is changing so quick that for us to do it, we kind of just put together a team. It's just like, let's do our own documents. Let's share that amongst each other and teach each other as we learn.
Yeah, that's a really good strategy.
For sure. I have another question regarding the UI. I don't know if it's possible to know from the user perspective of your application, to know the percentage of accumulative probability of getting a token or an NFT.
Yeah, so they're in our how-to page.
Let me show you actually.
Yeah, you want to?
Yeah, I want to share my screen.
Okay, yeah. So Emil is sharing it right now, but in the application itself, we have an how-to section, and in that, right below it, are the NFT odds. So you'll get to see. So exactly what I shared in the slide is what you.
Well, I was thinking about my personal accumulative percentage, because you earn more, your odd increases. Maybe I got this wrong, but is it something that you pile up as you play games, or
it's for each? So your probability resets to 0 every single time you play a new session of the game.
Oh, okay. I got it wrong.
It's not like a collective build up. Yeah, right.
Okay.
Collective build up like between each game to the point where this is like your probability is pretty much set to each individual session of the game.
Nice, very good.
Might be interested in that power spike though. And by the way, I think what you guys did for a team to recognize how quickly the ecosystem is moving, recognize that pitfall, and optimize communication to stay abreast of all these changes it's a really good technique. So well done. I do have a question on Drizzle though. I am surprised because to say the least. I don't know if we'll be able to do it today, but I would love to sit down with y'all and just talk about how much hair you lost working with Drizzle.
Just a little bit.
It's still, I guess it still simplifies the life. I mean, instead of using the pure Web3 JS, Drizzle is better.
Did you take advantage of like the reactiveness of like when the components would update when the state changed, or did you implement that differently?
Yeah, so we still have this issue on parts of this. Like there are other tools within like the React plugin that we wanted to use, but I'll be honest, some of it just flew over our heads, and we were just like, what is use cache call, and all of this. And so we kind of just implemented at the base level, but like now reading through the documents makes a little bit more sense. So we might be implementing some of that to like do account updates. Like for example, on our application right now, if you have an account connected when you first go to the first to the website, it'll pick that account. However, if you change your account on there, you're gonna have to refresh the website for that to for the application to be able to pick that up. So that part is not as reactive as we hoped it to be. So that's like one of the things that we're gonna update. Hopefully using Drizzle logic as well within there to make.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Because in the old, when Web3 changed their provider, they used to send a message that the Redux middleware would intercept and change the account, but they changed that method. So Drizzle hasn't been updated for that.
I see. Okay, all right. Okay, that kind of makes sense with like our conversation the other day as well. Because so it's an undertaking we're gonna see. It's crazy because I saw it work in other websites, but then I'm also wondering if they're just using Web3 like directly. And so like that was another thing that we wanted to undertake, was like I wanted to make more documents surrounding Web3, just in case something on the Drizzle side for us.
Yeah, I'll send you a link to the code that does that stuff.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think if anything is working, they had to provide their own Web3 provider with their own Infura-like link for that to work.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, yeah, Texas, if you want to stop the recording, I think.